All right, what is up, everybody? And this time around, I'm working on a little project that I have. Well, essentially, it's been quiet and done nothing with it since last year because I actually created it about this time last year to solve a personal problem that I was having. It was one of those, love to play board games and wanted an easy way to keep track of scores. And I thought to myself, hey, perfect for an app, right? So that is what I created, but it's very basic and it was solved the purpose at the time. But as it's coming around to holiday season and we like to play board games, I thought it was time to break this thing open again and start work on it. It's a Swift UI and Swift based project is what I've got here. All right, so what do we got here? Let's see. I think we got everything up and running. Checking the streams. Good evening, Coco Type. How are you doing, sir? How was your weekend? And I'm hoping that you're all sitting, waiting, ready, and excited for whatever it is that Apple's going to announce on Tuesday. My money is on new Macs. We'll see how that goes. You had a busy weekend. I hope you wasn't working. I hope you were busy having fun, not working. Right? All right. So I got the app running over here. I'm going to run through this very quickly to show you what it did. It's very basic code, as you can see. Like I say, I haven't touched this in a year. I hacked it together. I think it was like one day before I was going to play board games and was like, oh, see if I can make this thing as quickly as I can. So you've got a player one and a player two. They're both hard coded at the moment. Got to fix that. But there was only two players. That's why it was hard coded. They're not announcing anything on Tuesday, are they? Apple and events. I don't know. What do you think? They seem to be making a big deal of this Apple October the 18th event. So I guess we'll see. But what happened was, right? So you've got these two. The idea was it was for a certain board game with letters that I won't and name because I don't want to get into copyright issues. But the idea was that it's like player one, player two, right? So if player one, I'm going to tap on this here. Player one scored 5 points, and then you go, okay, so next player, it adds 5 points. Next player, they got 10 points, right? First player again got another 5 points. So now they're up to 10, right? I think you get the idea, right? It's to keep track of scores on a board game, all right? Now, like I say, there is lots of things not great about this game. In case you wondered, these other ones here don't do anything yet. Nothing else does anything else, right? The timers don't work, nothing else. That was it. It was to keep track, just keep adding up those scores. The 18th is tomorrow. The event's on Monday. Is it? Oh, wow. I thought it was Tuesday. Oh, you're quite right. Look at that. All right. Dang. Okay, I guess I should pay attention tomorrow. I was all set to work tomorrow and then pay attention on Tuesday. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. I guess when I was figuring out my dates, I just got it completely wrong. Maybe on Tuesday they'll announce that the stuff on Monday is shipping. Huh? Maybe. Anyway, my money's on new MacBook Pros, but we'll see. I personally, by the way, think it's always great to announce. Wouldn't it be great if like the new MacBook Pros and that kind of Mac hardware was announced just before WWDC, not now? Because between now and WW in June next year is a long time for things to change, and whatever Macs they announce tomorrow will feel a little redundant by the time, a little old by the time WWDC comes around in 2022. On Tuesday, they announce April Fools. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we were just kidding. All right, so there's a few things I want to do here, right? So I'm going to run through what I want. I'm not necessarily going to get it all done in this one, but the original idea, of course, is you can add as many players as you want with names, and it'll work through the list. So we've got to fix the hard coding of players 1 and 2 for starters. All right, that's one thing that needs doing. Another thing that needs doing is I wanted a timer to count, to start when player one, it was their turn, and it will add up the time, right? So you know how long player one took throughout the game to, cumulative time, however you want to phrase that, and player two, and so on and so on. So we've got the timing sequence there. I also wanted to be able to reference the values for certain tiles and maybe try and tie it into some dictionary APIs, think you get the idea of what the board game was without me saying it, right? So that's at least some of the basic work. This was a year ago. So as you can see, there was a lot of things in here from Swift UI that I didn't really understand at the time. Not sure I understand them now either, but they're there. Interesting couple of things I want to point out though, right? And I'm going to go to this. This is the player view here. And I'm going to run this because I want to show you something that you may not be that familiar with Swift UI. And that's this idea of conditional modifiers, right? So what I've got going on here is this player view is just a view, right? It's one of these rows. And you've got a thing here, right? You've got this Boolean that's like, hey, are they the current player? Yes or no, right? So as it goes through, I've got a Z stack here, right? And you see this right here, this .if. So in Swift UI terminology, what this is doing is saying, hey, if is current player is true, change the background to green, right? If it's not true, make it gray, right? And then we've got a corner radius, and also if they are the current player, put a shadow behind it. Now, stacking order is hugely, hugely important here. Because, let me explain why, right? As you may recall on Swift UI, we go from the bottom up, right? So we're going in this direction. So for example, if I was to put this corner radius somewhere else, it's not going to render correctly. You're not going to get these curves because it's got to be in the right place. Let me show you what I mean by that, right? I'm going to take it out of here and I'm going to put it at the bottom of this stack. And by the way, the reason I do a Z stack here was to solve the problem with the shadow, because if I didn't have a Z stack and I just put this V stack and H stack there, what's going to happen is the modifiers that I put in there will apply to everything. So like the text would get a shadow. Well, you don't want that, right? So let me show you what I mean here. Okay, I've got the corner radius at the bottom of this Z stack here. So forget the player name and the score. We're talking about everything else here. If I go ahead and run that now, you're going to see what happens is it's not going to render correctly, right? Look, we've got the corner radius, but we don't have a shadow. Well, the reason being is because we've rendered the corner radius and it can't figure out the shadow, right? So by putting that above, I'm just going to undo this like so. What we're saying here is, okay, apply the shadow to the corner radius, to the shape with the corner radius, right? And then it figures out the shadow correctly, because if we didn't have them in this order, it just wouldn't figure out how to render it. It would be there, but you wouldn't see it, and it's going to drive you nuts. So it takes a little while to figure some of these little weird gotchas out with the stacking order of things. All right, and then at the very end, I've got the text on top, which doesn't get the shadow and everything else. So that's why that is set up like that, okay? And then what happens is when I hit the next player button here, it toggles this Boolean, right? So it changes the active player. And when it changes the active player, it's forcing the view to re-render in Swift UI. And because Swift UI is re-rendering, it's rerunning through these and now seeing that is current player is set to true for player 2, not for player 1. So we get the green instead of the gray, and the gray on the first one. All right, like so. Make sense to everybody? That's how we can have like this quick kind of visual toggle effect going on here. And you can put in there whatever you like, right? But that's how you get this toggle. Let me show you the button. You'll see what I mean. So resume this. All right, hello to the 3 viewers. Hope you're all doing well. Please feel free to drop by the chat and say hello. And while I'm thinking about it, I am going to hit a button here. I think that's the button I'm going to hit. Yep. And I'm just going to check something on my iPad here. Give me 1 second. Come on. Okay. That's that one. Too many screens. All right. There we go. Okay, great. Thank you, super happy iPad. All right. Okay, so that's what we've got there, right? Now, in the content view on this next player button, let me show you this, right? So again, this was hard coded to fix the problem of what I needed immediately right there and then to make this app work. And now a year later, we're going back to it. So if the current player was 0, right, you know, we do that, we add the score, but we set the current player to 1, which forces the re-rendering of the view and flips these around. Otherwise, if it's player 2, you know, switches the other way. So obviously what we've got to do at some point is now strip this logic out. And once we've got the mechanism to add players here dynamically, we want it to loop through each of the players, right? So, I mean, we're really talking about building a model out here now instead of just this inline score stuff that we got going on, all right? This served beautifully last year for keeping track of scores in games. Didn't help me win the game, but it did tell me how badly I lost. So there you go. So that's that. All right. Feel free to ask questions, by the way, if you're curious about this. Like I say, there's some fun things going on here with Swift UI, but like this .if and so on. Again, a year ago was not that familiar, so that's why you see that we've got 3 if statements. Not exactly the best coding in the world, but it worked. And at the time, I just needed it to work. All right. So going back to this. Okay. I think the first thing we need to do is think about what are we going to do here. I think we do want to have, you know, there needs to be a new screen, right? Instead of when you start a new game to say, all right, tell me the players, right? Now, again, this was built for me. This was never built with the intention of being used by other people, but it is something I'm starting to think about. Which is how can I make this a generic enough kind of scorekeeping system for any game that requires maybe adding, subtracting, and putting it out there, right? I guess eventually you always kind of think that once you've got an app running, you think to yourself, well, this was for me. Would it work for other people? And I got to think about that and may go there eventually. You never know. We'll see. But I think for now, what we need is we need a view where you can add the new player, right? And the simple couple of different options we could do here that come to mind. One is a complete screen for adding new players and player management. And 2 is just a button that you hit to hit a plus, and a pop-up comes up that's just put the player name in, submit it, add it to the list, right? That's another way to go. Either way that you do that, though, you're going to want to have some kind of data management model, really, right? I mean, you don't want to do it all in. It was fine doing it in line for what I needed here in 2 players, but you really want some kind of data management because maybe you want to store that data. Maybe you want to export that data. Maybe you want to share, like I got a button here because I thought, well, maybe you want to share the scores at the end of it or something like that. So, you know, these are things that I was thinking about back then, but I had no idea how to implement them. All right, so that let me think about this now. So let's create some models here, or we need 2 models. We're gonna want one for the player details. May expand on that in the future, and 2 to keep track of all the players, right? Kind of a player management. So we're gonna go in here. We just create a new Swift file. and we will call this player. Right, let's make a new folder here, call it models. We're just going to call it player, and did it not make my folder? Oh, I didn't put it in there, did I? Do. Come on. Let's have a look here. Oh, it's in there. Okay. So let's make this a struct. Wait, let me think. The data is going to change. Well, no, actually, for this one it won't. So struct player. We'll have an ID, which will just be an int. Name is going to be a string. I'm not going to put the score in for now. I'm toying with whether the score should go in here, or we just keep this as the player data and the actual kind of in-game data of the score goes in the next one. I'm going to go with this for now. Let's start with this and see how it works out. I could put it in here as a mutating. It would have to, at that point, it would have to be able to be changed, obviously, because that'll be changing throughout the game, whereas these won't, so these can exist quite happily in the struct here as lets. Okay, so player, and then why does it not show me the group there? Xcode, what are you doing to me? Mutation is the root of all evil. Yes, it is, unless it's kind of good X-Men type mutations, and then is that acceptable? Let's do a new group here. I don't know why it didn't see my... Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that would work, right? Because it exists. It's just not showing it. Okay. Let's just keep going forward with this. All right, so we're going to do a new file here. Swift file. This one will be app should only hold data, never manipulate it in any fashion. Yeah, if you're a dictionary or, you know, encyclopedia or something like that. Actually, wouldn't it be great if you could just say, like, hey, no data can be changed here, right? What it is what it is. Because then if we went with that philosophy, I could make my app say that I got 5,000 points and it should always be that way, right? Is that fair? Okay, so let's call this players, because this will be the list of players, right? So we've got player, which is the model, players, which is going to be the list of players. Let's make this players, and it will have to have at least, let me think, an array of player, right? Come on, I know, no. I haven't finished yet. Let's put it in it just for good practice. Put that one there for now. Even displaying data to the screen or outputting it in any fashion is mutating the current state of the display and should be forbidden. So you don't want to change it? You don't want to have your displays changed now? All right. It's going to be an empty array. Oh, wait. Sorry. Hang on. Let me just think about this for a second. So ID, name. There was something I just thought of to put in there. No. All right, I gotta check something here. I need to leave my camera for a second. I will be right back. All right. Sorry, I had to check something. Okay, where were we? Oh, yeah. Okay, so var players is going to be an array of players, array of player. And you know what? I'll probably need that later, but let's just make it empty for now. Okay. So that's just going to be our list of players. We will get started with this. We'll fill this out as we go along here. Let's go back to content view. And this is under source control, so I'm always worried that if I break something really badly here, I still need to be able to use this thing tomorrow. Okay. So you can see on these player views, what we do is we send in the string for the player name, the score, and whether they're the current player. We're going to want to keep to do this, we're going to keep this same thing here when we use our players, but right now, we got these hard coded so we can see what's going on. Let's start to build some of this out. Let's see how well we go here. All right. So we're going to have some state here. Let me think. Do I need to have this in state? May not actually for this because, well, no, I probably will. So we've got a private var of players, and it is going to be players. Oops. All right, so we got our empty players. Let's go back over here. Let's just do this. So we're going to start with our init, right? We're going to create. Let's start by moving at least the hard coded out of the view into here, and then we'll start doing the management with everything in here. All right. Oh, I got way too many windows going on here. Hold on. Come on. All right. There we go. Wow, that is a very small window. Okay. All right. So let's start by creating a player one. We're just gonna, again, take what I've got here right now. Just want to get this out of the view and start shifting my code around. I'm sure if I had spent more than 5 minutes with this code, maybe 10 minutes before starting the stream, I could probably have looked at this and gone, oh, I can just write this like so. But we're going to do this in slow steps here. Let's just put this down here for reference. So we're going to want a player. And let's see, we're going to want to put in, let's put me as player 1. Oh, sorry. We're just going to say I'm 0, player 0. And I'll put my name in there. And then let's just do another one. Let player 2 equal player ID 1 for now. We can have that ID auto increment later on, doesn't matter. And I'm just going to say, I don't know, John, right? Okay. That's our 2 players. And then players, we're going to append contents of new elements, which is going to be player 1. No exact match using call to instance method append. Right? Oh, sorry, append player 1. It's just we're just doing this really quickly, and just to get this working here. Okay, player 1, player 2. Okay, happy, good. Okay, all right, let's go back to the content view. Let's get rid of this, go back to the content view. So let's start by taking all of this, commenting that out, which should probably make this view very unhappy. Okay, so no players in there now. All right, okay, so next thing is we're going to start working through our list. Gosh, I'm thirsty. Okay. Programming makes you real thirsty. See if there's anything else we want to take out here. No, that'll do for now as far as this list. Okay. All right, so we're gonna want to do a for each player, and isn't Xcode 13 supposed to be able to do this for me? For each. I thought Xcode 13 had this wonderful new way that it would automatically do this for me. Player in players. No? Am I wrong? I thought it did. I thought it was supposed to. I want to get this working here. Hang on. Cocoa type, do you remember? I thought I was supposed to be able to do this automatically for me in Xcode 13. Trying to find a way to trigger it. Anybody? I think the Xcode 13 support is for the language for each. Oh, not the Swift UI one? Okay. Oh, dang, that's a shame. Okay. For each player. Hey, Nicholas, how you doing? Sup? How you doing, buddy? Good to have you with us. For each player. And let's have a look. Let me think about this for a second. I gotta grab another drink here. I'll be right back. Hey, Nicholas, catch us up here in the chat. How you doing? What you been up to? How's everything going for you? I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Let's see. Catch up on chat here. I think it's for each array of views and maybe an ID print if your array elements don't conform to identify. Yeah, I always remember that one. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think it's for each uh, players, and then if I remember rightly, I think is it \.id. For each player. In players, did I get that the right way around? I got something wrong here. What have I got wrong? Oh, actually, is it dot slash? I gotta get them all right. Don't make me Google it. I think you had it. I had it right the first time. Do you think so? For each players. There's a slash in here somewhere though. Gosh, I can't remember. And then player in, right? This is the one I got wrong here somewhere. How about I keep randomly hitting buttons until it works? I know it's a dot slash somewhere. For each player ID. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Stupid me. ID. For each player in. Wow, I was writing some script UI the other day and I've completely blanked. Oh, players, ID, yeah. Slash ID, player in. Just for the closure out, the area is just we don't know what. Oh, okay, thank you. All right. So, save me typing it again. Let's just do this. All right, player.name. Oh, come on. Let's just manually set this for now to 0 and is current player. Cannot convert value of type string to express int. Oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Fair enough. Oh, thank you for the follow. I'm going to try and pronounce this name. Thank you, Kanzaki Genside. Did I pronounce that right? Thank you for the follow. Let's see. Nicholas says, today I looked into some Flutter development. Ooh, interesting. For side project. Other than that, very chill weekend preparing for Monday. Awesome. Hey, you know what? Let us know how you get on with the Flutter. And can we talk you into streaming some Flutter development? I would be very interested to see that, Nicholas. Hey, how you doing? Did I pronounce your name correctly? Kanzaki? Did I get that right? Kanzaki Genside? I'm hoping I'm not completely insulting you by pronouncing the name. Thank you for the follow. Nice to meet you. How you doing? What you up to? Am I an iOS developer professionally? Yes. More accurately, I'm an iOS developer, but I also manage a bunch of iOS developers. I run a team. Yeah. So far, looks a lot like Swift UI, Nicholas says. Interesting. So, Nicholas, we may start questioning you on Flutter because I've been curious. As you know, I've done React Native before and continue to do it. No, I'm not. Okay, it was close. Okay, I almost said how do I pronounce it, and then I realized you can't tell me. So I was close. All right. Well, thank you. At least I didn't completely abuse it with my accent. Okay, I feel better about that. All right. I got an error here. Let's see. Key path value type. cannot be converted. Oh, a few errors. I would to ask career questions. Please go for it. Ask as many questions as you want in the chat. It's pretty common to have folks drop by and ask about iOS development career questions. We are truly lucky that we have some fantastic folks in chat. Nicholas and Coco Type are wonderfully knowledgeable about these things. And I'm not too bad either. So please, if you want to ask questions, go ahead. Feel free. Not a problem at all. We often enjoy having way more chat than we do seeing my terrible coding. So please go for it. Your questions will serve as a distraction from my complete lack of coding errors, failing to fix my coding errors and all my syntax issues. So go for it. Ask as many as you want. Okay, so for each player, what of all these errors? All right, what have I got here? Okay, so you say I'm new to iOS development, but I'm not sure if I should learn Swift UI or UI Kit for a job. You'll be surprised how often that question comes up. That is a very good question. We have touched on it in the past, and I did some podcast episodes on Compile Swift for it. And the interesting thing is you're going to get a lot of different answers from a lot of people. My answer would be both is good, because clearly Swift UI in the future is going to be a thing. But if you're looking to take a job at the moment in a especially if you're going to be joining teams or a company where they have pre-existing apps, it's a very good chance they're going to have UI Kit in there. And I'll be honest, Swift UI is still got some problems, as in it's not fully complete and it's very much in its early stages, just like Swift was with sort of versions 2 and 3 at this point. So if you are in a position where you can learn Swift UI and UI Kit, that's the way to go. But that said, the folks in the chat room may have different opinions on this. Let's see. Coco Type says, I've been meaning to put together an FAQ of career beginning questions for my stream. Coco Type, that would be fantastic, sir. You should do that, and we will publicize that, because that would be extremely useful, I think, for folks. Do I need apps in the App Store to get an iOS job? No, I don't think you do. That's just my opinion. When I interview people, I do ask them what they've worked on before. I do ask them if they have apps in the store that I can take a look at. But in my opinion, it's by no means a requirement. I know a lot of people, like, for example, I have the day job apps in stores, but I don't have any personal apps in the stores at this time. And I think that's fine, right? Would it help? Yes, it might help, but here's the risk you run with that, I think. If you have a personal app in a store and, everything works out great, people love it, that's going to help you. If for whatever reason you have a problem or people don't like it, it could count against you, right? Because you're going to get those questions. Someone's going to say, well, why has this got 1, 2 stars, whatever, something like that. It can go both ways. I think by having something in the store, the huge benefit is that you've demonstrated the process of knowing how to get something in the store. So you've gone through all of the checkpoints, right? You've checked off all the marks on the list from Apple and followed all the rules to get it out there in the store. That's a big thing. But that said, I know lots of developers who don't have to worry about getting stuff in the store. Their purpose is to do specific things in the code base. Let's see. Coco Type says, yeah, absolutely not. It can help, but the vast majority of people who I've worked with haven't had personal apps. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, follow Coco Type. Coco Type's fantastic. I know how to design iOS apps right now. I'm learning to develop in Swift UI and Flutter. Fantastic. I think you've hit the 2 popular spots right there. And I don't mean that as in you've just hit the popular ones. I think those are the popular ones going forward at this time. That's just my opinion. Other people may have different viewpoints. But certainly, that puts you in a good position going forward, right? And in fact, as Nicholas said, hey, he's working on some Flutter stuff himself. I've done React Native. I'd love to play around with some Flutter, just personally to understand it. So that's good. Coco type, why is this at 1 to 2 stars? Well, I'm such a diligent worker at my day job that I don't spend as much time working on my personal apps. And that's a good point. That's an excellent response. Yeah, and hey, it may even be true. The customer reviews in app stores is something we should talk about sometime, and I should probably do a podcast episode on that. Not to promote the podcast here, but to promote maybe giving you some better answers. If you go to compileswift.com/podcast, I have a list of podcasts there. One talks about Swift UI and AppKit, and I'm always trying to address areas that I think are relevant for folks. So there's lots of other episodes there that might help share some information on that. Could I do some work for either of you for experience? I think what the best way to do that is, I'm not sure if I've got any projects that would benefit you directly. I certainly have, and Coco type may weigh in on this one as well. I do have on GitHub lots of, open to the public repos that you are more than welcome to fork and play around with. Please feel free. I would invite that. I would also like to suggest, actually, now that you bring that up, a good way to demonstrate knowledge and gain experience that'll benefit you from starting a career or shifting a career would be to work on some of the GitHub stuff out there, right? Find some repos, some apps, some projects that interest you, and try to contribute and learn those. That is a big thing, right? I know that when I'm interviewing folks, that's something else I look for is, have you got stuff, not necessarily on GitHub, I mean, that's the most common one, of course, but have you contributed code to projects? How that tells me that you are working with other folks and understanding the process of working in a team and working in a shared code base. And right now is Hacktoberfest, which is on GitHub at the moment. So that's, you get nice little badges for taking part in that. Is a portfolio site necessary? Hey, I got, let's see, we got another one here, another follow from Linux Pavatov. Did I get that right? God, I don't think I got that one right. Thank you. And we got another question here. Is a portfolio site necessary? I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's something I very strongly recommend. And I'll get into why here in a second. CocoType says, I don't accept pull requests on my apps. Oh, sorry, CocoType. Okay. But definitely there are a lot of other open source projects, apps out there to contribute to. Absolutely there are. Thank you for following. Yeah, I got that one. And it can help, but definitely not necessary. Resume and GitHub are more important there, I'd say. Yeah, I think CocoType's right. In fact, I was thinking about this very thing the other day, because when I started doing what I'm doing here with the stream and my blogging on Compile Swift and peterwitham.com and that was to demonstrate knowledge that I couldn't demonstrate because of various restrictions with companies and the kind of work that I was doing. And I wanted to be able to fill that gap to show, look, I know what I'm doing here and this is what I know. And to also share back with communities. That's why I developed this sort of portfolio site. But by far these days, I think a lot more people look to GitHub and other repository type sites like that for your portfolios, because they can dive into everything and see your work and knowledge. Let's see here. How many app screens should I have in a prototype to get the eye of an employer? I think whatever the app needs is the answer there. I think I'm going to flip that question around the other way and say that if it was me looking at it, I would rather see attention to, okay, like this app that I've got here, there's 3 screens, that's what it needs. Some apps only need one screen, right? So I don't think it's a case of quantity of screens or anything like that. I think it's building the app in a way that suits what the app needs to be. And that may be as simple as one screen, right? Um, let's see. Massive ordinary people here in Brazil. Oh, in Brazil, nice, Brazil, very nice. I got a couple of folks on my team from Brazil, so yeah, very nice. I think GitHub is very important. Nicholas says yes, absolutely. So I like to say I mentioned GitHub because it's the one that we're all familiar with. I think, right? But of course, any of those, GitHub, Bitbucket, and any of those kind of things. Uh, what I would say is it's if you're looking to, you know, apply for jobs, get the attention of people, if you show a lot of activity on GitHub, that would help you because it shows that you sustained interest and development over time. And by development, I mean, remember that can be something as simple as you don't have to write code. You could, I've done this before. I have contributed documentation to open source projects. Um, and that is still development task, right? Very important to get that across. All of those things are related to development, and so any contributions you make there is beneficial. And if I was to look at a GitHub, for example, and I could see that back in January this year, someone made some commits and then nothing for the rest of the year, that leads me to a couple of conclusions, and they could be wrong. But number one would be they just walked away and left it, gave up, left the industry, couldn't be bothered, whatever, something like that. Or number two, they got a job and they just like, that's it, I don't need to do this anymore. My personal opinion, that's wrong. You should, if you're going to do something like that, like this with the streams, and I very much welcome Coco Type's thoughts on this, being a streamer himself. It's a commitment over time, right? Just like when I'm doing, the podcasts, blog posts, whatever it is, it's a commitment over time, right? You don't just do it to achieve an end goal of I got a job and then you walk away from it. It's important to have a community. It's important to be part of the community. And I'll be honest, because you never know when you're going to need it, right? You may have a situation where you're fortunate enough to get a job, but don't forget all of this and just move on, because things happen. And, you may not like the job. You may have to find another job, and showing that you are still committed and having all of that stuff over time shows that you're still very invested in not only you and what you do, but your career, your learning, and the projects that you work on. Does green GitHub contributions chat show more experience? Does green GitHub contributions chat show more experience? I'm not sure I understand the question there. Do you mean, are you talking about like, where it shows, the little blocks over time to show that you've done them? Is that what you're talking about there? If I made one app and on GitHub and explained it well, would that be a good point in an interview? Yes, it certainly would, right? I think there's nothing as useful as if you make an app, whatever it may be, right? And it can be something that there's a million other ones, but that's fine, because the point is that if you can make the app, put it on GitHub, and then be able to talk to the decisions that you made when you were making that app, that would go a long way to getting my interest in you, because you're going to be passionate about this thing that you've made and want to talk about it. But more importantly, you can also explain the decisions you've made to help me understand your thought process and how I think that might integrate with other team members, projects, and so on. So that's very important. Coco Tup says, I don't think I'm the best role model on sticking to my commitments right now. You have things you need to deal with. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely not. Everyone that's trying to hire mobile devs is having a really difficult time finding people. That is so absolutely true. I'll get into that in a second. The blocks over time. So, I would say don't make commits just for the sake of making commits to get the blocks over time. But seeing lots of blocks over time is helpful because again it shows commitment. I'll let me see if I can give me 1 second here to change my screen. I'll be right back. All right. Okay. So, let me show you. Right. I'm gonna be real brave here, and I'll pull mine up. Oh dear. Suddenly, I'm very hopeful that there's blocks. Okay. Hold on. So here's my GitHub. Right. With here's me here. Right. And in case anyone wonders, and anyone's ever, I don't think I've ever explained it. My nickname right here, this graphics guru, goes back at least 20, 30 years at this point online. I used to be a graphics guy, and I was all the UI thing, and so that's where that came from. And I've had it, I don't know, we were back using dial-up modems back then. That's how long I've had it. Anyway, this is mine right here, right? And so as you look at mine, this is not great. I have been a little lapse here, and I'll be honest, it's because I've just been so crazy busy. But you can see that when I look at this, it's like, okay, look, he's been doing stuff over time, right? Does design software matter? Learning Sketch. I love Sketch. I use Sketch. Sketch is a great tool for me to put my UIs together and prototype them. What I love is some kind of export tool from Sketch to Swift UI. If anyone ever does that, you're going to get my money. Your video is still on. Be right back. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, there we go. Thank you, Coco Type. I thought I hit the button. Okay, right, there's the video. All right, so this is my one here, right? We can't see the screen. Hopefully you can see the screen now. So it takes a few seconds here for it to catch up on the stream. So I'm just waiting to see if it catches up. Come on, catch up. All right, there we go. Okay, so it's coming up now. I can see it. So this is my one right here. All is okay. Great, thank you. Because the lag I've got on my preview over here is like, I don't know, 10 seconds behind. Learning Sketch will make your designers love you at the job. Very true. But it's probably not going to be a huge help in the interview unless designers are jumping in there. Yeah, I would say that any tool, like if you're going to show, look, here's a UI design, and this is the UI I came up with. Doesn't really matter what the tool is. They'll be looking at it to see firstly, how well you've followed human interface guidelines, and secondly, what's your thought process behind the design. So not necessarily the tool on that one, but when you get into it, yeah, the designers will love you for using Sketch. So as I was saying on my one here, you can see, right, this number last year was like 500 something. And I've been fortunately very busy this year, or unfortunately very busy, whichever way you want to look at it. And so I haven't got as many commits in here. Now, worth pointing out, one reason for this is one of my websites, my peterwhitham.com website, is no longer in a repo, being pulled from a repo here. So there's the 2 or 3 commits that went in there, every week at least, have gone from that. Probably more, actually, 4 or 5. But you can see, commitment over time. And actually, I have some commits that I haven't pushed in here yet. But you can see that, this shows activity, right? And that's a good thing. I still don't understand this rating. I don't know how I got A+, but there you go. And this is something else we should talk about here as well. Having a good sort of portfolio README file, I think, is helpful, right? Give people the information. Tell them how to find you and get a hold of you, and put some information in there as well, right? I don't know why that Twitter one's down there, but here's mine over time, and it could be better. It was better, and I need to get on that. I haven't taken part in Hacktoberfest this year. I did last year. That was a lot of commits as well. So, you know, feel free. And as I was saying, you can see there's a bunch of repos in here. Like, for example, my compileswift.com website, the entire thing's there if you want to see it. So there's plenty of code in here if you want to grab it and play with it and do whatever with it. That's all there. Not all of it's public, but quite a lot of it's public. So that's that. Hope that answers the question. All right. By the way, excellent conversation this week, everybody. Thank you so much. These are fantastic questions. Keep them coming. I guess what it's also telling me is I'm overdue to do another podcast episode talking about careers. So I should probably do that at some point, right? Okay. So that's those. Let's keep the questions coming. I'm going to see if I can fix some code up here while I'm doing this and try and figure out what I got wrong. Did I mess this up? I don't think I messed anything up, did I? Cocoa Type's usually really good at spotting my errors for me. I'm banking on you, buddy. Please. Key value cannot be converted to... Really? This doesn't help at all. Let's start by changing some of these to make sure that I'm not getting this wrong. Okay, for each players, it shouldn't be player, right? No, each players, and create the view. Sorry, I was doing dishes. What was the error? You can't do dishes. I got errors here, buddy. I don't know. I don't recollect having this one before, so I know I've got something wrong. Generic struct for each requires that players conforms to random access collection. Okay, I have an idea for an app that I want to design and develop in 2 weeks to try and apply for a new job. Go for it. It's going to be a pretty intensive 2 weeks, but go for it. What type is players? Players is players. Oh. I think I may have just found my problem. Would help if that was accessible, right? This can go back to player. This isn't a big deal. No reason that can't be that. Of course, unless I got a typo. All right, let's backtrack here. So player is a struct of player. I think you want for each players. Oh, good point. Yeah, thank you. I think you're right, because players would be the class. Player that. Yeah, you're right. See, Cocoa Type's awesome. Now all the errors go away. Go on. Oh, they did go away. Cocoa Type, you're awesome. Cocoa Type is fantastic at the Swift, and I'm kind of more the Swift UI. Who knows? Between us, maybe we just like perfect setup. All right, so here we go. Thank you, Cocoa Type. Here I was. For those of you that don't realize what I did wrong, I had, we've got the type here, right? The instance of the player's class, but I was not accessing the data inside the class. Who knew that you needed data for things to work? Who knew? Can you zoom in on the code? How can I start freelancing in iOS? Zoom in on the Swift code? Sure. What I can do is, hold on. Let me see if I can get my keyboard shortcut right here. Don't know how big you need it, so you tell me if it's big enough. Let me make that smaller. Whoops. I mean, I don't really need to see the canvas here, if I was to be honest. We can go up and turn that off. What's the keyboard shortcut for hide canvas? We'll just do it that way. There you go. Is that easier to read? Command Enter. Thank you. The what do they call it? Alternate supporting view. How can I start freelancing in iOS? Also, I'm not sure where to find good work. Ooh, that's the magic question. I don't know that there's a fantastic answer for that. I would recommend search. You could search for freelancing software development. I'm trying to think. There is a fantastic resource called. It's not exactly freelancing, but you could go try like indiehackers.com. Coco Type. Do you know of any good? Or Nicholas, do you know of any good freelancing type websites specific for those things? LinkedIn, indeed. Yeah, LinkedIn is a great one. The only thing with LinkedIn is to be careful because you will be bombarded by recruiters. I can't tell you how many recruiters a week I get reach out to me. Especially you Facebook ones. All those Facebook recruiters keep reaching out to me. You can read it now. No problem. Great. Thank you. All right. So we can get rid of these. So now, if I go over to my players here, and I'm just going to create a third one. Let's have Jenny. Jenny's going to enter the game here. Here we go. And again, this is just temporary stuff here as I'm working this out, right? Let's go ahead and run it again. But let's get that variable name correct. I've not done any iOS freelancing in 10 years. Yeah, it's been at least 15 years, maybe 20 years since I did freelancing. And even then it was just knowing someone in town. Maybe an evangelist, an angel list evangelist. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you was to, certainly do a search for, Indeed is a good one. LinkedIn is a good one. And doing a search for freelancing. I don't know how well something like Fiverr, Fivver, would work on that, where you offer your services. I'll be honest, I've only ever looked at that from an artistic standpoint, never a technical job standpoint, if that makes sense. What's a good way to market and monetize an app? I think if we all knew that one, we'd be sitting on yachts retiring right now. By the way, here you go. See, look, there's our third player. Marketing an app is a tricky one. I think if I knew the answer to that one, I'd be doing a lot better than I am. But I think being parts of communities is a big thing. Don't over push things, right? Websites, see, even if it's just a one-page landing page for an app is a good way to go. And then you can point people to it. Again, putting it in all the right places where you are so that people see it. That will also help you from the getting work perspective because you can point them to that app page and show it there. For, monetizing an app, I don't know. I mean, the in-app purchasing is working very well for a lot of people, right? You can do the advert thing as well, have ads. I would say be careful with that. Don't overdo it. I have seen a rise in people giving bad reviews because you have just way too many adverts. You see it a lot in free games where it's just done to death and you essentially cannot end up using the app or the game, whatever you want to call it, because there's so many ads. So be very careful. Honestly, this is just my opinion. I think the best thing for an app is building a loyal community and user base as opposed to just, doing whatever to get the money, right? Over time, is what counts. There's no instant win here that's going to work for you more than 5 minutes. Coco Type says, you mean just putting it on the App Store and hoping for the best isn't the right approach? Sorry, Coco Type. I know your dry sense of humor because I got one myself. And yeah, who knew that didn't work? I might need to do some work. I would say for me, that is the most annoying part. And that's also partly the reason I currently don't have any personal apps on the stores, is because I know full well I would have to pay someone else to market them for me because I don't have the time. And as soon as you're paying someone else to do marketing and stuff like that for you, there's nothing that says they're going to do it in a way that you find acceptable. They could end up doing you more harm than good, right? I refer back to the previous statement of too many adverts and that kind of stuff, right? An important part, I feel, that has helped me over my entire career of some, I don't know what, 30 odd years of app development at this point in various forms, from web to mobile, is just consistently trying to do the right thing and not irritate people or get a bad reputation. That is a surefire way to kill your career right there. Just my opinion, but that's my thoughts on it. All right, so we've got our players in here now. They're all starting with 0. That's fine, right? Because when you start the game, they're going to start with 0. I'm going to leave that alone for now. How long have you been an iOS developer, and can you explain what challenges you have had in your career? Oh boy, I don't know if we've got long enough stream time for that. I will try. Okay, brief history of my career. Ready? Sit down, folks. Here we go. Sit by the campfire. The first coding I ever did for other, not just fun, but for actual, like, this is work type thing, was in Visual Basic. And then I spent, I'm trying to calculate the numbers. Up until 1990s, it was all web related stuff. And even so we took an HTML, CSS, all that kind of stuff. I would do websites for folks, did rather well with that. Flash came along, and that was my first dive into serious programming. And I'll be honest with you, even though with all the bad rep and everything else, if I wanted to, I could still easily write Flash for companies today, ActionScript, and I still get job offers for it. I was writing Flash ActionScript related apps and kiosks interfaces and apps and all that kind of stuff well into the 2000 sums. Like, serious dashboard work for serious projects and huge companies and apps and that kind of thing. And then I moved to mobile, maybe, I don't know, when the iPhone, just not when the iPhone originally came out, but maybe the second version of the iPhone. And that's when I started to pay attention to mobile. And only within the past, let me think, I'm doing the math. Only within the past 5 or 6 years has it been my full-time, like, everyday thing. Okay, so it's been a small part, but it's been a very intensive part because of the speed and popularity and huge growth in this industry. So hopefully that helps. Well, the second version of the iPhone was the first one you could code for. The first version, first iPhone was web only. True. I didn't actually, and at that time, that was me doing stuff for myself, right? So I started out that way. I didn't start doing it for whatever you want to call it, day job stuff, till about 5 or 6 years ago, when I felt that my skills were at a point where it's like, okay, I can do this confidently now, right? So hopefully that helps. Now, you don't need all the background that I had, that's for sure. Things, I'm sure Coco Type would have some thoughts on this. Writing for mobile apps now is a lot easier than it was in the beginning. So hopefully that answers the question for you. Okay, so where are we? So we've got this building, right? We've got it running. We've got our 3 players. Now, what we really want to start thinking about here is, in fact, I'm going to try this out because you notice right now it thinks they're all of the active players, right? That obviously is not what we want here. We're going to have to fix that at some point. Did you start with Objective C or Swift? I started with Objective C. Now, that said, I started with Objective C and did not get on too well. It took a while because I was used to like I say, ActionScript, which is really JavaScript and all of that kind of stuff. So it took a while. But when Swift was announced in 2014, I believe, if I recall correctly, during that keynote is when I registered compileswift.com, which I have now, and started my very long journey of learning Swift, working with Swift, and writing and talking about Swift and everything else. So I literally have had Compile Swift since the moment it was announced in the keynote, because I knew if I didn't get it then, by the time the keynote was over, all the good names would have gone. So hopefully that helps. That's not wrong, but I don't know that I completely agree. Okay. There's way more to know now. There's more options, right? In the iPhone OS 2.3 days, you just needed to know how to do code signing. Yeah, still a pain today, right? And how to write a UI table view data source. Oh God, yes. And 90% of mobile programming. Oh my gosh. I remember trying to wrap my head around delegation for those tables in Objective-C. Oh, jeez. That was something I had to, like, every time I did it, I had to go back and reread how to do that. Objective-C, the thing I think with Objective-C that always got me, and I'm okay with it now, but at first, again, I was a guy with a web background, trying to wrap my head around what are these crazy long method names and just how many square brackets do I need to write one line of code. That was kind of my thing. And then when Swift came along, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Swift is such a sensible language. Not that Objective-C isn't sensible, but you can see it's like, this is readable language, folks, compared to Objective-C. My opinion, just my opinion. Is Swift a first good language to learn as a fresher? Personally, I think yes, because and many of you have heard me say this before, in the Compile Swift podcast and things like that. I think Swift tries to take the best of as many programming languages as it can and make it work. I think it's a great one. I do still feel that the best one, in my opinion, would be to start from truly nothing. Probably Java, because it teaches you so many good things. But I am biased, and I think that Swift is a fantastic one to learn because it'll teach you good habits, good patterns, and it's very easy to write for the most part, right? Sure, there's lots of complicated parts, but you don't have to mess with those yet, right? And if you combine it with this, with like Swift UI, and as you can see here, right? So you just describe things. Here's a button, here's a spacer. Now, when the button action takes place, in here, I'm going to write pure Swift code, right? Call a function, create classes. These are all very straightforward things in Swift, I think. Yes, they're very similar in plenty of other languages. I'm not knocking any other languages, but I do think it's a good one. I think what's important when you're learning a language and you've never done programming before, something like that, is getting results that keep you motivated and excited to keep doing it, right? You don't want to write code for 3 days and then have it fail, right? You need in my opinion, when you're new to learning these things, you need small wins, right? So understanding what these 6 lines of code are and how that works and how you call it. Swift Playgrounds is a fantastic app for learning that on Mac and iPad, for example. I did a video the other day where I haven't put it up yet, but we did a stream last week where I set up the Swift development toolchain on a Linux box. You don't have to write it on a Mac. It's advisable. It really is. But you don't have to do it that way. going to small wins never stops being important. Oh my gosh. Like, even today, what we've done here in this, an hour and a half. I have been talking a lot today. Sorry, folks. But you ask such good questions, and I want to give you all the knowledge that I have. I'm excited to share it with you. The small win of converting those two static players into this very basic model here is a small win. Some might say it's not a small win; it's a medium-sized win. But this here demonstrates. Look, I'm dynamically pulling data and rendering an interface. That is pretty massive part of what we do nearly every day. So just that small little bit there is going a long way to making things like even this, my silly little app here, do things that says, look, there is code going on in the background here and I know how it's working. And it didn't take a lot of code to do it. So there's that as well. These are all important things. You can develop an iOS app on Linux. Well, it gets tricky. I'm going to talk about that here for a second. Can you write an app to deploy on a device? It's not worth the headache to try and do it. But if you want to do server-side Swift, which is something I've not really covered on this stream, you can. You can use a thing called Vapor, which is fantastic for writing server-side Swift, and you can run that on a Linux box, right? You can write Swift with the right tools on a Linux box and run them. What you don't get Swift UI, and you don't get the Cocoa layer on top. So you don't get the visual element that you do from doing like an app like this. But if you want to write APIs, you want to write backends, things like that, you can certainly do those on Linux. And I'm going to give a shout out here to, let's see if I can find them here. Hold on. Let me go to my channel. Oh, okay. I don't have it on here. I'm not logged in. I still keep going to click on these tabs. You can go to people like Megan Wilson, who just did some ones recently. Another good person to pay attention to for Swift, writing Vapor server-side Swift would be Bright Digit. And right, I'm going to pull him up here. He has, a whole ton of videos on using Swift and on the server side as well. So that's another, good resource. Hacking with Swift, of course, is always one of our big ones, right? What can you build with server-side Swift? Anything you want is the answer to that. Actually, you can literally build either APIs that you just call in apps, or if you want to build entire websites out of Swift with using Vapor. And Vapor's not the only framework. You can do that too. I know people that have done that, and it's just like any, you view it in a web browser like any other app. So you can write a server-side app in Swift and use a framework to generate or build the HTML and CSS and that to provide the UI. It works beautifully. So you've got that as well. I've not done a lot with that, and I'm actually intending to play around with it. I'm in the process of setting some stuff up for that. So keep an eye on compileswift.com. You might see some things for that soon. Fantastic questions today, everybody. Thank you so much. And to all the viewers and the new followers, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That's why I do this, right? And, we often say when I'm doing this stream how we talk a lot more than we do about, writing the code in that, because all of this stuff is important. And to me, super crucial, folks in the chat rooms. So you're all really, it's the highlight of my week. Truly is, sitting here talking with you all while I'm doing this coding. So I thank you to all of you. You make it worthwhile, and please feel free to keep those questions coming. If you want to ask questions offline when I'm not online here, you'll find Compile Swift on most or any social network. If you can search for Compile Swift. It's probably bound to be me. Or go to compileswift.com. There's links there as well. Let me pull that up for you. So, you know, if you think of something and I'm not on here streaming, please reach out to me, right? Like I say, there's, you know, we've got the podcasts on here. I'm always talking about stuff. I try and do one every week. There's the newsletter where I put out what I think is some cool stuff that I find and all that stuff. And then you can ask me questions as well, right? Twitter and all that lot. Just search for Compile Swift, all right? That's my advert for you. Now the trick is to find a social network at Compile. Actually, I could name a few. There are a few social networks Compile Swift is not on, and I don't care to go register them. But I am on Instagram, Facebook. Don't like Facebook, but I'm on it. Instagram, Twitter is one I do like. Slack, of course. Some great Slack groups out there, by the way. And then I'm also on the Wisdom app, which is another one now. What advice would you have for a fresh iOS resume? I would say do things so you can fill it, even if you can't fill it with job history at this point. Do things to demonstrate experience, right? Learn, put it out there to demonstrate experience. Having, like I say, even just get some GitHub repos, a one-page, even just the README on GitHub with your stuff in it as you learn it. Beautiful way to go. Fantastic way to go. No developer experience. Sometimes, and I've said this before, I think having no prior developer experience can benefit you because you haven't lived with the restrictions and the rules that we all learned and had to live with and all the workarounds and everything else to get us where we're at today, right? So, meaning that you didn't live through the early years of Swift, which were extremely painful. So just do it. Do what, like I say, do projects. Everybody has something where they say, gosh, I wish I had an app to do X. Go make it, right? Another one is if there's an app you use a lot or made by somebody else, right? Don't do it with the intention of ripping it off, putting it in the store. But go make it. Make your own version of it. Figure out how it's made and make it. Figure out how to solve the problems, what you might want in it to make it better, right? Things like that. For example, let me find it here. I have got one which is really old at this point, but it will serve to show the purpose here. Hang on, I'll find it here. There it is. This is a public one, right? This is very old. This is a prime example of creating something so that you can demonstrate your knowledge and have a functioning app for yourself. This is an app I wrote called Code Notes for iPad, right? And all the source code is here for you to download it, build it, and run it. It's not a complicated app. It is perfect example of what most apps do, right? So I did this one to demonstrate that I knew what I was talking about and used it as a teaching tool for some other folks as well. You can add, right? You add a note to the list and it's essentially a note-taking app that runs on the iPad. Now you can download this source code, like I say, right here, and go with it, right? You can do whatever you want with it. I've got it out there. I'll put this in the chat. Let me see if I can put this in the chat here without something crashing horribly, right? I'll put it in this one as well. So there you go. For that repo right there, you can go grab it. You can download it. It's out of date, as you can see at this point. I have not updated it. I probably should. It's a fully functioning app with, a detail view and a master view. You can expand the view. It's got a settings screen where you can list languages that appear in drop downs and all these kind of things that you can take it. I did this to show that I had a good knowledge. Arguably, this went a long way to getting me a job, right? So this was one of the first programs I wrote and put out there. You can see right here, right? Add, edit, delete. notes, default set of programming languages. You can add the custom ones, and it's got drag and drop support. All of that to show that I knew what I was doing. And this was written in Swift, not Swift UI, because it was before Swift UI, but Swift. And you can take that, run with it. You know, don't take it and claim it to be yours. I'm going to warn you about that right now. But if you want to learn from it, you're more than welcome to. But doing something like this was how I showed what I knew without having something in the App Store and no history of iOS development on my resume at that time. Hope that helps. You get to skip over. You get to skip ever having to know about the Objective-C garbage collector. Yeah. Reference collect. Oh, don't. When ARC came along, which ARC, for those of you who don't know, before there was automatic, in quotes, memory management, we had to do it manually. You had to allocate, deallocate, and all this thing. And then if there was nothing was left using it, you had to destroy it. It was very painful, but I think it was also a good way to demonstrate. I don't know, a good way to demonstrate good approaches to development and cleaning up after yourself because you didn't rely on the computer, the compiler, and the runtime to do it for you. I just want to focus on Swift UI for my app, but I really want to get a job in iOS with it. Fine, perfect, go for it. There is lots you can do with Swift UI that doesn't involve writing a ton of Swift. You will have to write some Swift because remember, Swift UI is just a visual layer. But maybe what you should do is consider, like you mentioned, Sketch designs. Do something like this, right? Make a page or a repo or something that says, look, I made this design in Sketch and I've now made that in Swift UI, right? I have another personal app here. Let me see if I can find, is it on my list here? Okay, I'll give you a demonstration of this one. Right, this one right here, I designed it in Sketch, and we're going to have to wait for it to load up here. And then I rebuilt exactly what I had in Sketch. Oops. Let's do an iPhone 13. And resume. I rebuilt in Sketch, and as you can see, look, right? This app right here, there's lots of views in this one, for example. I'll go through them quickly, right? Anyone watching my stream has seen this before, but all of these screens were designed in Sketch and then brought over, right? So this is all, as you can see, very long form because I'm still working on it. Very long form Swift UI, but it's only Swift UI, right? The manual, you don't mean the manual main release. I mean the 2-3 years that they tried to roll out a garbage collector before they decided on ARC instead. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So you're talking about the pure garbage collection. Yeah. And what an apt name, garbage collection, right? But this is all Swift UI, right? So you can see that you could easily sit like this one here, for example, right? This view, you can see. This is all Swift UI, right? Here it is, right here. This is everything right here to build that view. So you can do an awful lot in Swift UI without getting too heavy in the code. What plugins do you use in Sketch and to export your designs? Let's have a look at that. Why don't we take a look? Let me close this. Let me open up Sketch. Let's have a look. Because I can't remember off the top of my head the plugins. I've got one paid plugin. I gotta sign in again on this. All right, give me 1 second. I gotta sign in here on this. Oh, come on.